All right. So I can record again, so I'll quickly go over what we did yesterday. We talked about echo and print and how we can send data to the screen, and in this case the screen is what? The browser, the web browser. We're spitting out what type of text? HTML5. HTML for sure. We can concatenate strings together by using this period. Instead of a plus sign, we use a dot. This concatenates strings together. I can store things in variables, and we started a little bit about every variable starts with a $sign. And this is a lot like Ruby and other scripting languages in that we do not have to declare our variables before we use them. But we do have, they spring to existence as soon as we assign a value to that variable. Okay? But if I don't assign something to it and I try to print it out, I will get an error because it has no value associated with it. All right? So that's a quick run through of what we did yesterday. We did a little bit of math, some precedence, values, works like just any other language.
Because this is a scripting language, it doesn't allow any sort of like methods onto, if you save a variable as like an integer, because it doesn't have a specific integer type, or is there any specific methods that you're able to do with
We can, yeah, we can convert strings to integers and back and forth, same like that. Like this one was a method we called on our Dave variable, which is a string, and so the string length gave us a number back. So there's lots of methods, but it's not object-oriented. Not object-oriented like Ruby. So, yep, not as much fun as Ruby. All right, so today I wanted to talk about how we break this website up. We have our initial index.html. This is my website here. And based around food, which is my favorite thing. And so we want to break this up. Now, what are some standard ways to break up a website in terms of pieces of the website that don't change? Header, footer, okay. The navigation doesn't change. So the navigation might be a piece that we break apart. The header is all the data above the content. And then this would typically be the content here that would change on a page-by-page basis. So since we're dynamically creating a website, it makes sense to only have the code one place. If I change my navigation and add a button up here, I want to be able to change that in one file and have it propagate across all the rest of my website. So to do that, we're going to use, and there's thousands of ways to do this. There are some religious wars even in PHP about how the best solution is. But I find it's the easiest by using an include or a require statement. Okay? An include or require allows me to pull in another file into this file that's currently being displayed, and it does that every time I'm going to display that page. So it lets me break the page up into 3 or 4 different pieces, and I just call this include. So let's just show you what an include looks like. First of all, it's include and the name of the file that I want to include. This is my file. All right, with a semicolon at the end. So the file name, this has to be a file name that is available in your structure here. Yeah.
With the extension or without?
With the extension.
So then,
all right, so I would call this .php. All right, so I want to show you what happens when I do that because I want to get into some errors right away. So I'm going to go to my test.php and enlarge that. And I see that I have an error when I try to include this file. Failed to open stream, no such file or directory. And it tells you the name of the file that we're trying to see, which is what we're trying to load in the browser right here, and what line number it's on. So turn on your line numbers. Go to line 28. Here we go. That's the error. All right? And it gave it as just a warning. So if it can't find that file, it will still go on and do, I can still do something like this. This is after the include. And see what happens. All right? So the warning, using the keyword include displays a warning, but then allows the rest of the page to be displayed. Okay? There's another way of doing this by using the word require. Require is a little bit more hardcore in that it will fail to load the rest of the website and display a hardcore error message, meaning I'm not going to continue. This file is required for me to continue on, so I'm going to stop. I want to make you aware of that right away that I can't find the file. So if I use the require statement, it says warning, first of all, can't find the file, and then since it's a require, it's now a fatal error. Fatal error, die, Will Robinson, right? Can't do any more, and it didn't display, it stopped executing all the rest of the statements and stopped displaying any more text after that point. So there are two different ways of doing that, actually four. I can also say require once and include once, and we won't get into that one yet.
How would you do a file path in an include or
Same as if we're in like CSS, defining a file that's not in our current directory. So we'll do that in a minute. Let me include an actual file that's here, include me.php, and see what happens here when I reload that one. That's an actual file, and this is what got inserted into the rest of my lines of code here. So let's look at my include me.php. All it had in it here was a echo that said this is included. So at the point where I did the require, it's basically copying all the code from that PHP file into this line and executing those lines at the same time and then continuing on down the line. It's yeah. All right. Any questions on that?
you need the source to be a little more difficult. You end up with like divs and stuff all next to each other.
You might, yes. Yeah, but remember again that we're going to look at, we don't see any of those includes here. We're just seeing the final output HTML. So yeah, you'll have to be aware of editing your divs and stuff like that. Yeah.
So if you were to do that, we would want to force a div into the external file or whatever.
Maybe, depends on what you're including. I could be including a function that I'm going to call. I could be including raw HTML. Anything I want, I can include into this. So let's do that. And let's answer Derek's question. Let's create a new folder called templates. And let's move my include me into the templates folder. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that one. So now it's in a different directory. And when I try to include this, now let's see if I get an error. I couldn't find the file. It's looking for include me, and you want to look at these error messages. They have good information for you. Don't just say, oh, I got an error, now what do I do? Well, look at the error. It got good information in it, right? So it's looking for it at the root of my directory, so that's not where I want to include it from. I have to tell it that it's going to be in my templates folder, and then called include.me.php. So let's reload that guy, and everything's happy. So we're including it similar to doing CSS and things like that.
I got a syntax error.
Did you put a first slash here?
No.
Good.
No, I just went images/image.png. And I got a syntax error on it saying, or a parse syntax error saying an unexpected equal sign.
Well, you're trying to include an image?
Yeah.
Why would you include an image? Remember that this is is expecting this to be text files.
Oh,
Okay, so if I'm including an image, it's going to read that like a text file, and I'm going to get all kinds of binary garbage.
All right, I didn't know that was a
Yeah,
text file.
so these are all text files. If I want to put an image on my page, I put the HTML to display the image on my page. You know, an image tag, right? Just like any other language. All right, any questions on that include or require statement? I suggest you do the require most of the time, unless it's something you don't care if it actually comes in or not. But this forces you to fix the errors right away when you find them. Don't let a warning come up. All right. So let's start to break up our file, and I'm going to go to my index.html file and try to see what can I take out of this, and where would I break it up. All right. So it's got some weird stuff in here. I'm going to delete that. That's just useless. It's got some style sheets. It's got some everything in here. And here's the end of the head, which is interesting. Mine doesn't have any body tag. That's interesting. Look at that. That's an error in their template. The body tag closes nothing, right? So whoever wrote this did not put a body tag. So I'm going to add a body tag. I'm going to fix my validation so it works. So be aware if you're using somebody else's code that you're going to have to fix it. You're still responsible for it validating. So let's see if that changed anything here. Yep, we're all still happy. All right. So we need to think about what part am I going to put into the header, what part am I going to put in the footer. All right. So it depends on your website. It depends on where you think your content is. And usually in these site setups that I have here, they usually say content. And so you kind of have to look in here. It says introduction to our kitchen. Block quote. I don't see it yet. Container maybe. The header is the one nice thing in PHP Storm, I can collapse these things. So I can collapse the header, and that everything is in the header. That just doesn't seem right either to me. That's kind of a misuse of HTML5 tags. I think so. So I want to look for second menu lipsum lorem, because I think that's good. Here we go. So here's the main. So this is going to be the beginning of my content. All right. So everything above this point, I would consider the header. Everything below that point is going to be in the footer. All right. The end of this, whatever this div here is. All right. So I'm going to take everything above this and copy it, and I'm going to create a new file in my templates folder called header. All right, header should work, and so let's call it a PHP file. Say OK. And now in that file, I can actually just put the HTML. So I'm going to put all of the HTML from the beginning all the way through. I'm going to take away my PHP for now. And this is just straight HTML up to a point, up to that main div. See, I missed the actual main div, though. So I want to copy this, too. All right? So that all depends on your website, where you're going to cut this from. All right, so there's my header. Now I want to do the same thing for my footer.
So it's like a partial.
It's like a partial in Rails, absolutely.
So these kind of things you want to have in like a templates folder.
Yes, yes. So this is all, this div here is all of the main content. This aside here, all the way down to the end, looks like that's the footer. All right, so probably this aside is part of this, and this details is all part of the footer. All right, we'll choose that for now. We might have to change that. So I'm going to take, it's hard to find, squish my div main. All right, I'm going to, for now, I'm going to take everything so my page looks the same, and then we'll cut pieces out of this later. All right, so now I'm going to create a footer. Footer.php. Paste all of that in there. And now I can start to create a page. So let's go to my, let's create a new page here in the top level of my site. And we'll call it index.php. All right, so I have now two files. How do I pull those into this file so that when I call index.php, I'm going to get the same thing, right? So I'm going to say require. And the name of the file, it was in templates/header.php. And then require templates/footer.php. All right? And then this is where your main content is going to go when we add more files here. So let's see what happens. Now I have to load the index.php file and see what it looks like. See if I've crashed it. Okay, it looks the same. Very good. So the source looks the same. It's got all the same source. It pulled it in from two different files. And notice that in my footer and my header, I don't have any PHP in here. I'm just loading raw text, raw HTML, and it's inserting it into the file at that point. All right? Any questions on that so far? I have a stray in nav. Sure do. This is a messy one. Do I have a start nav even?
There is no start of it. I've already indented
There's no start here.
Oh, for that one there is.
There it is. Here we go. All right.
I thought you meant the one
No.
down below.
All right. So there's my nav, because that's the next thing I want to try to pull in and make this a separate file. So I can actually copy this out. And I'll cut it out. and create a new file called nav.php. Paste in my HTML for that. And then in my header, I want to include that file. So a file can include another file, which can include another file, etc., all the way down. Okay, so PHP can get a little messy in this case. But I want to, since this is just PHP, I want to do PHP require, and then the file name would be what? All right, if I say template, it's relative to, let's see what happens, nav.php. All right, so let's see if my page still loads. Did it upload? I'm going to save them. All right, so it's still loaded. If I put templates, though, it's going to be an error. It should be an error. Is this not saving? Right, so we want to make this one not templates because I'm already in that folder. So my header is in that same folder, so I want it to call the nav that's in the same folder. So I would not put my templates. I'm not sure why it's not showing an error. All right. All right, so now we're happy. All right, so I've got 3 files that define my entire site, and I can start to make each one of these different. All right, so the first thing you're going to have to do is change your nav file, right? So I want to, if they go to my Contact Us page, where would I want them to go to? Where would my href be? Okay, contactus.php. We want all of the PHP files now because we're going to have dynamic pieces on each of those files as well. So let's just do that one, and then I'm going to have to create, and we'll call this one PHP2 so that I can do 2 at once. I'll rename my blog.html to blog.php. And I'll create a new file called contactus.php, and we'll take this out for now. And so how do I set up my Contact Us? Let's go look and see what my nav looks like. If I go to blogs now, it's going to go to blogs.php, which is fine. The Contact Us is going to go to where? It couldn't find anything because I haven't fixed that one yet. What did I have? These all seem backwards, don't they? I'm not sure this is the best template. About us, is that it? Yeah, I know. Yeah, and they're backwards, yeah. It's not coming up yet. So let's pause. Huh, weird. All right, so if I go to contactus.php, there's nothing there because there's nothing in my file, right? So how do I make this file look like every other file? What do I have to do in this PHP file to load my header and my nav and my footer. Require, all right? So I have to do that in a PHP block. And we will say require templates slash header.php. And copy and paste footer.php. We'll upload that file and reload the page. And there we go. So we have everything working. Let's see if now the menu is right. I can go from blogs to contact us. That's interesting. Yeah, they're just not loading real well. So that's what I would do. That would be the beginning of converting this into the different files that I have. Then later on, we're going to take and put our content inside of here. So let's just put some content in here. How can I do that without echoing it? Do what? Right, we can end our PHP, which says, okay, consider everything else HTML now, and I can start my PHP block again. And so these two are separate PHP blocks that have code in them. And outside of this block is just strict HTML. So I can do an H1 tag. This is a contact page. All right. And I reload this guy, go to my contacts, which is not working for some reason. Contact us, PHP. And it says this is a contact page, okay? So I can start to put in my specific things for each of my pages inside of this. I can add more PHP blocks. I can have a PHP block that will define a calendar that's coming in a couple weeks you guys will have to do, etc. All right? So everybody understand the concept of requiring pieces of the file, putting in your own HTML, requiring the footer. Yeah, this is due next Wednesday, so this really shouldn't take you very long. To the web page. Now, obviously, I cut this, and this is actually content all the way through here. So I would take this out of my footer, maybe just this part out of my footer. Something. It depends on your website again. All right. So the second menu, lorem ipsum, if I want to do that, I'm going to go change it in what file? Footer file. All right, good. So I go to my footer. I take and look for the second menu all the way down, box menu, box menu. So let's just take out all of this stuff. Leave the aside there. And reload my page. And I got rid of that entire block. Now, this aside got pushed over because it's floated, right? It's floating next to my contact here. But I can start putting any stuff I want inside of my contact page.
So, back to we're editing these, these are kind of going up live on our dev site, and you're grading our dev site for the website.
Yep. So that's why we have two sites. Okay, so ideally, if you're going to start, if you're done and you're going to start, and I haven't graded, I won't grade them until you guys all turn them in tonight. But if you want to work ahead, then leave your production set to last week's assignment.
Hey, Dave,
Okay?
what if we already have the complete PHP thing that we're supposed to do here done? Would you accept that? For
No.
the assignment?
No, I got to grade each one separately. So, unfortunately. So your production should be last week's. Your dev should be what you're working on now. Okay? Does that make sense? So let's do that right now. Let's talk about creating a whole nother deployment server. If I go to my tools and deployment, I can create a whole nother server like this. And the easiest way would be to take this and copy it and call it CIS 230 production. And just change what I need to change here. So I'm going to take the dev off and make this CIS 230 down here, which is perfect. The mappings have to change, so I take the dev off of here. No. No. We'll talk about that later. But all right, so now I have two different servers. One's going to go to my CIS 230 dev. One's going to go to my production side. So I can say OK. So now if I want to deploy, if I'm happy with all of this, I can say right-click and say deployment and upload to, because upload to CIS 230 dev is my default. So that's, I don't want to do that. I want to upload to, and it tells me a list of all my servers, and I say production, and it's going to gather all the files, log in, collect the files, ship them all up there, and I should be able to see those eventually in my production side. It's going to take a while. See, it's uploading all of this stuff. So now that's basically deploying to my production side. I've got everything done, everything working. I deploy it. Now I can go back and work on the next assignment in my dev side. All right? So let's.
He did it on purpose.
I did it on purpose. That's right. So if I just go to the top level of my production. Oh, this is not my production. My production looks like my dev at this point. Isn't that nice? Now, obviously, you're going to have to change all of these links to match what I require, which are the articles and the blogs and the products and all that stuff. But really, this should not take you longer than half an hour. I mean, really, seriously. If it takes you longer than that, you need to take a typing lesson or something. There's a lot of cut and paste and creating new files, and it really shouldn't take you very long to do that. All right, any questions on any of this? So we covered breaking it up into multiple files. We covered modifying the nav, so I could have a file include another file. And then we covered how to deploy to two different servers. Any questions on any of that stuff? All right, that's enough for today then.